Okay, so we've got a lovely autumn wreath to think about in watercolour, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of watercolour pencil into this as well, just so in case anyone fancies a bit of that. But it's a beautiful thing to do, and just think that autumn wreaths are absolutely gorgeous because they're just a complete celebration in a wreath, aren't they? Of everything autumn. I mean, there's four gorgeous images there. It's really difficult to choose, but I'm going to go for this one here. But they're all beautiful, and we can obviously move things. You can swap bits about. You could do that one with sunflowers on or that one with berries on, and just make them your own. You can go as loose as you possibly want, or you can go really tight. You can even go as loose and as illustrative as this. It doesn't have to be really complex at all. In fact, I was looking for the other little one. That is the other little one. Um, and see, oh, there's a bit at the top of this one here, look. So you can go really simplified with it and just kind of go really illustrative. So it's thinking, how do we do that? Like you can take like a few leaves and just make them really simple and go make a really simple kind of more illustrative wreath with pine and things in it. Or you can go really detailed, or you can go somewhere in between. I'm going to go somewhere in between, but actually lots of people today have really enjoyed going either loose or really focusing on it and going really detailed. And lots of people didn't finish and were quite happy because they wanted to carry on when they got home. So don't put pressure on yourself. The one thing I am going to do, make sure this pencil is deep enough for you to see, because I'll have to just rub it out, is to get kind of just a bit of an inner circle. Although you can't see the circle, I'm just going to give myself a bit of a circle. I'll draw some bits over the top of it and rub these lines out anyway, but just to give myself an idea of where kind of the general thickness of it is, and then where obviously there'll be bits that are going to be spilling out, just so that it helps me like not kind of get a really squashed circle, and just draw that in a bit more deeply. So I've only popped some little marks. Now, obviously, if you're drawing anything on here, just don't be tempted to make it too dark, because it won't come off, and that's difficult because it'll show through. It'll show through the reef. But this is just gives you an idea, so you end up with something. So the big thing, which whatever we're doing with the watercolor, we need to work light to dark, because if we don't work on each on the light areas first, then we can't put the light areas over the dark. So now if we were doing this in acrylics, we would get all of the darks in first and the mid-tones. We've got to work the opposite way. So I'm looking at, and you think where to start. So I'm actually going to sketch in, but you really don't have to. Lots of people were quite happy just to drop things in where they thought they went, and that is perfect as well. But last week I went quite loose, so I'm going to go a bit tighter. So what I'm going to do, if you think, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, I don't know where to start, is just start with some of the slightly bigger shapes. And again, I'm not really going to be getting too caught up on, is this a perfect match? I'm just going to put my own spin on it. So some of this fruit might be slightly bigger, might be slightly smaller, but I'm going to get some of the shapes. The reason I'm going to pop these shapes in to start with is then I can kind of spread things out there. There's almost like a little pumpkin or something in there. Some pears and apples, that's why I like this one. But they really are, aren't they, a celebration when you think that's, we love the winter ones, but now you can get all year round wreaths, which is just fabulous. It's celebrating all of the wonderful things in from the season. So I'm getting a few big chunks in there. I'm going to get my berries around here. Now, you can just like draw lots of little circles. You can also use, if you want to kind of go in and do something a bit different, you can use a little like little earbud or something to drop these berries in as well. If you don't want the faff of having to paint everything in, just get an earbud and then just dip it into the paint. Or you can, obviously if you're going large scale, you can, all I'm doing is this so that mine's tiny. So I just want to make sure I'm reserving these areas to pop in plenty of
Sorry, Becky, it's very light. You can't see it very well. You can't really see it very well.
I know. 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 The problem is if I don't make it, if I make it any darker, you won't be able to see my berries. And so if you just imagine where I'm putting my berries, I can't do that bit because then it will be too dark. The paint won't be seen. It'll just be a series of really dark marks there. And because they're so tiny, I'm having to kind of draw little tiny bits. So unfortunately, I can't demo that one like that. Just imagine where it is. So you can start popping, your areas, if you've got any light areas like your berries or whatever, and there's a lot of light. So it's just to suggest where it's going to go. You'll see mine once I start putting the colour in actually. And actually I could start dropping the colour in. And then I'll put some leaves in around that, and then you'll be able to see that. But of course, you don't have to put any marks in. You can just go straight in with the paint as well. That's quite nice. Lots of people this morning were doing that. They were just going for it with the paint straight away. You just have to make sure you go light to dark, otherwise you'll cover it. So I'm going to pop in some bigger leaves here. And that's the thing. Sometimes I could do this with a pen, but then it will all run there. I'll maybe try turning this off. You might be able to see it a bit better without the light. Um, Go. I'm just filling in some nice big leaves underneath, really, just so that we get all those lovely curls and shapes. But again, as I said, you can just start dropping them in. The way we approach it is so personal. And then, you can add in, the last thing really would be to pop some of these twigs underneath, everything in there, but there's still some berries and things in there. And then any other twisty, lovely leaves. But you can simplify these, it doesn't have to be a really accurate way of doing it. I'm going to simplify mine because it's quite small and I won't be able to get into the detail. So I am going to make it quite simplified. There's something there that's a bit twisty. So we're just blocking bits in, really, is all we're doing there. Yeah, so just looking at what the difference is there. Just blocking in all the different leaves and things as we go. Just enjoy the process of going round as well, whether you even if you start with something else, or you're starting with the paint. But yeah, we've got to get these berries on over the top because there's no way that will cover the other way around. So we need those in. Whether you're dropping them in first or what, the light colour berries won't cover over. They are important to pop in. Keep working around, popping all of your elements in. All of those lovely twisty leaves. Overlapping. There's a lot of overlapping here. There's a lot of leaves underneath, isn't there, actually, when you start to look? There's loads. And you can leave some of those out if you think, oh, it's kind of like overpowering my wreath or whatever. You can leave them out. But it's a nice process in itself, just doing this. A mass of leaves and a mass of beautiful foliage that we can collect. One of our lovely art class ladies from this morning had made the most beautiful wreath herself from leaves she collected on a walk and things from a garden. It was beautiful. And then she painted that this morning. It was just kind of putting things together, but it looked amazing. It's like, oh, what a lovely idea to do something like that. It's really nice. So I'm just chipping away still with all these little berries, because what we'll have to do is put the shadow between things to make the depth as well. But it is a really nice little process to do. So keep getting these twisty leaves. And I'm kind of, some of these leaves look as they do, and other ones I'm just kind of just adapting them slightly, to be honest. If I think they're not going to fit very well, or it would maybe look better without. Get all those leaves that are underneath things as well. Just make sure you've got those berries in where you want them. Okay, well, I'm going to stop there, but I'll just carry on. So I'm not going to, I'm going to use some pencil, but I'm not using the pencil for these berries. And the reason is they're too tiny and I won't be able to drop in the different colours very easy. So I'm actually going to go in with my paintbrush. All I'm going to do is look at all the different tones I can see. So it may well be we can see warm tones of berries, some more red, some that quite light, like almost quite an acidic yellow. I might even mix a bit of white to get some of those with the yellow. So it's more pastel-y. So I want lots of tones of yellow. So this is like much more acidic. And obviously like, it's a really good idea to test with these colours because it's so difficult to tell. But we've got a mixture of quite warm colours in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all of my berries. It doesn't matter if these dry to a bit more anyway. And then I'm wanting some kind of more orangey ones. So I'm going to, orange on its own, I think is going to be too bright. Yeah, I don't really want them to be that orange. So I'm going to take some orange and I'm going to mix it with a bit of Cajun yellow, which is a warmer yellow. See if that gives me the tone. And we can always, so you can use them brightly or you can thin them down like we've done before. So I've got this one, and then this one. These tones there. And I'm just going to go in, so I'm going to just drop these different colours in. So where I'm going to start with the lightest ones in that group. But as I said, you can go in with like a little earbud and take, and get some in. Some you might not want to go in with at all, some might you want to keep really light. It's entirely up to you. But it does help us with getting a bit of depth with berries when you've got some lighter and some a few different tones in there. Because it's how it would behave with the light shining on some areas and not on others. So just have a little look what you've got and then go for it. I'm going to work round so that they dry a little bit by the time I get back around to the other side. But as I said, you can go in and start dropping bits in without any drawing at all.
Can I ask you a question, please?
I'll
Is
just
it
press
better,
pause because the video's on.
is it better to have the light above you or from the
No, just keep working through. It's really relaxing actually if you're really focusing in on it. That's when we just get completely absorbed. And then you can just go around and get, your next darkest colour. And we're just building it up. Each little area, we can do that with this. So when you get back to the kind of near the beginning, it should be dry enough to then start to drop in some colours. And you might even want to let some run together. I mean, I'll try putting another little, an even darker one in there. So just see how are you feeling about it? Some people like to drop these in and let it merge a little bit. Leave it with you and see what you think. The idea is just to remember it's about finding the joy with your painting, not getting too caught up in the tiny, little details of things, as in, not worrying too much about it because it'll just happen. We're just working in a systematic way with dropping these colours in, and we know that if we work light to dark, it's going to be more successful. I'm just going to go in the darker one now and do the same, just keep it going. And again, I'm not following it absolutely berry for berry. I'm just going to kind of pop in colours I want as well, where I want to put them, which is nice. So just have a little look at what you've got on there, see if there's anything else you want to pop in before, you know, you go on to the next kind of dark colour. A lot of the thing with watercolours anyway is making sure there's enough shadow between, but we'll put the shadows in. So you won't see the effects of these wreaths until we get a little bit nearer to, you know, kind of getting those shadows between. So obviously we've got all the different types of leaves. Now I'm going to go for the fruit next, actually. So we'll just do a little bit of a demo with some pencils. So with the pencils, you'll need to test out your colours. So obviously we've got these apples here, and there's all sorts of shades. We're observing it where the shadows are underneath as well. You can layer over 2 watercolour pencil, but again, you're going to need to work out. So I can go deep like that with pressure, put a lot of pressure on, or I can do it like this, and I've overlaid very lightly. And then if you test what will happen, like we'll kind of put the shades in, but then test what colour that will be with your paintbrush by wetting your paintbrush, and you can move that bit of paint around, or where you've put the pressure much more deeply. So you can see when you actually go to drawing on your watercolour pencil, how much pressure you need to add to get the colours you want, or which colours to layer up. So it's really important to, I think, really important to test those out there. I'm also seeing these kinds of tones at the top of the apples. I'm going to try that. Get a bit of shadow in there. Again, I might just test that, you know, how deep do I need to press? Or is it really light, you know? And then, I've got to put these colours there. And I'm looking for these kind of, it's almost green yellow, and I haven't got the right colour there, I know. But if I try overlaying a yellow and a bit of green, I can see what's going to happen. I'm just testing it out the side here before. So I'm going to pop a little bit of the green tone in there. Now, the other thing is here, there's a nice little shine on that apple. So you can leave the shine, or you can get ready with a bit of damp tissue, which is what I'm going to do, because I find it much easier to lift out. Put a little bit of water, clean water, on the bottom of your tissue and get ready. So that when let's wet it now. So I'm just testing to see, so I've got the green and the thing in there. Now, obviously, if I go into where the brown is, it's going to run a bit, but you might want it to all blend together. But if I want to get out some of that light colour there, so I've got a shine in the middle, I'm just going to lift that out quickly while it's damp. You won't be able to do it very easily while it's not damp. And just lift out, and so this is my tester over here, where the shine is. So that helps as well. So it's a combination of that. I've got quite a few pencils there. of getting those in and then leaving enough time for bits to dry so that it doesn't all run together in one big mess. But actually, if you can let it bleed a little bit in as well, which is what I'm doing. I'm just very making circular motions there. So that does blend a bit. But that's why it's good to have a little test first. So I'll do that apple, a couple of these apples like that in here. So a little bit of the red on the apple here. Or you can just do the same with paint. Just really doing this to illustrate that you can, you can use pencils with alongside your watercolors if you feel that that's what you want to do. And then it's getting the shine on here as well. I mean, if you've got bigger fruits, it's easier to do it. I'm not working very, very small at the minute. And again, the shadow behind this will really help my apple pop a bit later. I'll put those darker ones in a bit later, with a bit of mottle which will pop in. I'm not going to draw this brown stalk over the top because I've got a leaf behind it, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm still working light to dark on here to make sure it goes in. If you feel you want it to run a little bit, you just have less water on your brush when you're doing it. And you can get it to blend whilst it's doing it and just kind of bring in a bit of that mottling. And you can go through, and work all of those little areas like that. And do the next one here. Got a nice little shine around that apple top there before we get this, in between the centre and the so that's kind of, you might want to do that in two halves. It's up to you. It's quite a warm colour, isn't it? Because it's on its top. We'll get more of a sense of the shape of that as well once we drop the little stalking over the top of it. I'm going to go for a combination of orange and yellow together. And I'm making mine quite watery today, so I'm not putting a lot of pressure on these apples, but you can if you want to. It's personal choice completely. I'm just going to leave a ring around there. We can pull the colours around, which is really lovely. And this little chair here. All we're doing is observing. If you're wanting to get into the detail, that is, you don't have to put all this 3Dness in if you don't want to at all. You can make it completely flat and illustrative. Always looks really flat till you put all of the colours together in there. And lifted it out to get that shine because I've not left it. Just have to be a bit quick. Pretty well, I've missed some lovely little berries. I'm going to pop those back in while I can. I like the berries. If you like something, put more of it in. If it's your piece of artwork, you can. Just keep working around, you know, whether it's paint that you're popping in and dropping in, or whether it's your pencils that you're layering up. Just enjoy that process because it's very relaxing. Once you get going, you can really just switch off and just get pulled into all the lovely shapes and colours that you can see. Some of them might be different shades as well, so that's quite worth thinking about what's going on with the shades there. Or not, you know, as I said, you can make these completely flat and just put really simple shapes in. It just doesn't matter. As long as you're enjoying it and you like the look of what you've got. Or you're just having a go, you're not sure what it's going to look like. But you're just exploring and having an experiment and seeing what might happen, which is great. It's all about. Remember to lift out quickly if you're wanting to take any light sections out before it dries. Keep working round. So with your pencil, obviously you've got to be very careful when you're tapping out any warmer colours. And I'm just going to top it up with paint because I'm not quite getting the colour that I'm wanting from the pencil. So you can always do that, use them together. Just gonna pop a few more brighter colours on there. Right. Then just, find the next thing that you think is the next lightest in there and work in that section. And then eventually we'll just build up and get the really dark, the real dark ones then between. So you're looking at the next ones. I'll probably go for my leaves next, but I'm going to take a pause there and see how everyone's getting on and see how it builds up. You won't see the final thing until the shadows are in nearer the end anyway with watercolour because you need contrast. But we can't see that until we build it up anyway. So just pause there. So just carry on. You can decide are you using your pencils or your watercolor pencils, or are you going to use your paints? I'm going to go in and do the leaves with some paint actually, but I want a couple of tones. I'm going to do my lighter leaves first, and then I'll go underneath and do some darker ones, whichever, like the dark areas that these leaves are. So I'm going to just look at these yellowy ones to start with. There's a few different ones, but even within the yellows, there's different ones. The great thing is, at this time of the year, you tend to see a darker vein on the leaves. That makes it really much easier to get the light coloured leaves underneath and then the darker bits on the top. So I'm going to do watercolour underneath. I'm going to use watercolour pencil for the veins because mine are so tiny. So let's see. I want a yellowy leaf. Again, we're just having a go with mixing some different colours up. I'm thinning it, we can thin it down to make it more watery or put more paint on the brush to make it a bit brighter. I'm going to go in with just a tiny bit of with a tiny bit of burnt sienna there. So you can see that on its own, it's very bright. But I'm just dropped a tiny bit into the yellow, into this yellow. Let's test that. Just warms that, yeah, that makes that a bit warmer. And then we'll do another one over here. That's the yellow, same yellow. So these are cadmium yellows, a bit warmer anyway. And I'm going to try some of these ones here, a tiny bit of green, but I want a more mossy green. So let's see what we've got here. Yeah, that's probably okay. You can drop a bit of red in as well. If you've only got one green or such, drop a bit of red in it, makes it more mossy as well. Cerulean or something. Sorry, not cerulean. Alizarin crimson or something like that. Test that there. Yeah, it's getting a bit more mossy in colour. Or you could just put a little bit of ochre in as well. There's lots of ways of making colours. There we go, that's another. Just that slightly warmer tone. Okay, so I'll go in with these other yellowy ones first. And like we said though, you can go in with your pen after and just kind of just drop some shapes, and they don't have to look perfectly. Perfectly like the leaf. Well, I'm not going to go in just yet with those. And you might have some quite similar tones together. That's fine because the dark ones between it will separate it as well. I'll just drop a few colours in. And we've got more green, different greens and things as well. You can start to drop those colours together a bit. We'll do down here. Just drop some different colours in there. A two-toned effect. We're dropping in different colours. And if you're not sure again, just double check what you've got with your different tones. Just change. Start to drop things in a bit more if you feel like something's something needs it. So, if you've got a leaf and lots of things going underneath, you might need to go round your berries and things a bit if they're dry enough. You create a little bit of a shadow around them. It's only trial and error though, just see how it goes. You might not even see the definition of some of the leaves in there. Just get a little bit of colour underneath. It's quite nice to emphasize the ones that are sticking out the tops, and then that's where the eye then understands that the rest are leaf shaped. So that suggestion that we've talked about before. And if you're not sure what's going on, just have a little guess, really. A lot of it is guesswork, isn't it? Because we can't see everything that's happening. Get a few spiky shapes in there, that helps. And then the rest of it, is going to be shadow as well. So if you wanted to, when each bit's dry around those bigger leaves, you can then go in and just get a little bit of darker shadow in between as well. As long as we let things dry, it'll be fine. So as you're working through, you can then go, in between anywhere that you feel like you've finished, where it's really dark. Like up here, I'm going to do it up here just to illustrate that. Going with a really dark burnt umber, really dark brown. Just see if that's actually dark. Yeah. I want a contrast. I'm not going to do it down here because I've just put all that on so it's wet. But here I know that I can go underneath, it's dry, and just pop some of these darker colours that I can see where the shadow is around some of these areas in here that we get between the berries, for example, or between other areas like the leaves and things like that. And then it starts to create the shape of those things. You can see then there's a big contrast. So that helps things appear a bit more. You don't have to draw around every single berry, but what you can do is look at where the groups of them are. And again, this will depend on how like light coloured and washy you want it to be. So you might not want as much contrast as this. So if you're doing it really light, you might want to have a slightly darker contrast, but not really intense darkness to it. So you've got to decide, when you put that dark colour next to it, is that going to be too harsh a colour for your colour palette? For mine, it's not, but everybody's so different. If you've chosen because you're really enjoying the lightness, you might want to go a bit lighter. So yeah, so just start to work in some of those really dark areas between, only when you know you've kind of got all of your colours in there. Look at this now, here. Yeah, where the really dark areas are. You pick the level of contrast is what I mean. In those really dark shadows, they don't have to be really, really dark. You can keep them lighter and washier. Once there's some contrast, you do need some, otherwise it won't pop out. It will be difficult to see where everything is. You can grab bits off as well if you kind of go a little bit too far in one direction with the shades or whatever. So I'm just now working between this little section here. A lot of it's through the middle, where you'd expect it to be kind of really deep in the middle between all of the different berries and things. The other thing you can do is flip back to your pencil. So if you've got, say, you want to put a little bit of definition between your berries, you can go in with your watercolour pencil or anything really fine. That works quite well. Just to get a bit of a line there without going in with a heavy outline or whatever. You don't even need to wet that. You can just leave it in. And just keep going round. It will be different colours in. Same with if you want to pop any veins or anything on the leaves, you can use your pencil to do that as well. And then go, if you want, and go over it or don't go over it, whatever. Or you could just use your pen at the end. And it starts to fill up, I think, when you get to this point, it does start to kind of branch out much thicker. At this point, because you're starting to fill some of your gaps between there. Let's have a little look at what else might be going on in there. Are there any other kind of colours that you can see that are just popping out at you? You didn't notice before, because we do start to see things in here that we might not necessarily have seen. I'm seeing something in here behind, something a bit red. Down here now as well. Easy to get lost at this stage as well, but don't worry. You put anything back in with your pen after. You know, we haven't even thought about all the little sticks and things that we can see. That's like our last bit to do. Things just start to emerge when you get your little bits of shadow in. Even if there's not a huge amount of clarity in the middle, it doesn't matter. As our brains work out the things that we can't see ourselves. Another pattern. Keep going round. I'll just keep popping in the final shadowy bits. This is obviously a bit damp at the minute to pop in fully, but I'm going to do it anyway. Otherwise, I'll be able to show you the last touches. And then when you get to where you think you need to be with it, just going to pop one little leaf in behind there, actually. Just to balance it out. That's the other thing, is just sort of a little look at the balance of what you've got. Make sure, do you want to widen anything or bring anything in a little bit? And then it's just these last little bits, isn't it, of kind of sticky things, or your last little touches, like your stems on your apples. I'm going to just hand draw that in with this, with a pencil. Anything that overlaps. Any bits you want to put on, but obviously you can do all this in pen as well, over the top, make it a bit illustrative, and just kind of get a little bit of you know, kind of sketching there. I'm not going to sketch over this one actually today. I'm just going to put the marks in a bit more, with watercolours, just because I'm enjoying the actual watercolour side of this one a bit more than the sketching side of it. And this is what I said, if you ever get to the end and you think, no, I really want to keep that as it is, then absolutely do it. So when you've got all of your deeper bits in, like this, between, you can just kind of pull out all of those lovely shapes. I'm going to go for a cross between an ochre and a dark brown, sorry, and a bit of alizarin crimson to give it just a bit of a pop. Just test the colours to make sure it all goes. Or you could use your pencils. I'm just going to try and keep it free, so I'm just going to pull all these out. these sticks where I think I want them to go. You can take them out as well if you think I don't really like them in there. Don't put them in. I quite like them, part of the arrangement. But again, it's personal choice. And I might actually use a dry brush so it's not too damp and I can pull it across and make them feel a bit more twiggy. And just kind of just pull it across the top and then it leaves a bit of space between the and this one's got something on it, these twigs. I'm just gonna run my brush the other way as well. Coming the way as well. And you know, then you just have a little look back and see is there any other areas you want to. Obviously, we can't lighten anywhere. We can kind of add shadows. And it might be when you start looking, you think, oh yeah, there's a little bit more shadow. I just want to pop in there or there, and just pop that in. You know, just to check where things are. I'm going to leave mine there, but I hope you really enjoyed just having a really good play around with your composition and just really enjoyed losing yourself in the paint because that's what it's all about. And I'll take a final pause there. Um, yeah, enjoy everything that autumn has to offer because some beautiful leaves and things about.